So hello and welcome to another Valorant video. Today we're going to be talking about cascading agent picks because there's been, if you go on to the Valorant subreddit or anything like that, you will see a lot of talk about the cascading agent picks and a lot of feedback that I have seen that has been pretty, negative towards the idea as a whole, such as this one by Daddy Cool, which says cascading agent picks will not solve insta-locking. The problem is Riot not rewarding support players. So we're going to talk about this post in particular, but this is kind of a general, I think, assumption that a lot of people are having, that cascading agent picks won't solve insta-locking or will just cause other problems instead. So first off, just very quickly, what are cascading agent picks? Well, Riot, the devs basically talked about the idea that they want to bring in a cascading agent pick, which basically means assigning a random number to each person on the team, 1 to 5, and people will pick their agents in that order. They'll get 15 or 20 seconds to pick their agent, and then, it'll go to the next person who has second, and then third, and fourth, and fifth, etc. And you can only lock in agents in that order. It did also mention that, they could potentially skip their selection as well, so that is something also that could happen, and then I would guess you would just go to the back of the queue and people would continue to then select their agents. And the idea is, of course, that if you are 4th or 5th in line, you don't get to insta-lock your Jet or your Reyna. The people who come before you get to pick first. And people have been bringing up some problems about this, not only this person here, Daddy Cool, but some common themes across issues that people can foresee with this solution is that people are going to throw games. People are going to just straight up leave games. People, even if they try and be a good person and try to be a good teammate and, still just pick an agent, they're not going to know how to play that agent. And so it's still going to end up costing you games because, the person who still is trying their best and being a good teammate just doesn't know the agent that they're playing. And so it's going to end up costing you games nonetheless. So let's talk about those problems and this problem as well with Riot not rewarding support players. And I actually agree 100% with this. That, this post goes in, a long rant here about how people aren't rewarded as support players. Now, it's not necessarily due to with RR, but more so just, people want to do well. They want to see that they've been team MVP. They want to see that they've been match MVP. And that's very difficult to do if you're not a duelist, because obviously duelists tend to have, higher combat scores in general. And so will normally tend towards the top of the leaderboards when it comes to things like team MVP and match MVP. And this person is talking about how that means that people won't play support agents because they want to be top of the leaderboard. And I absolutely agree with this. I think that Riot could look into this as well. But that said, that to me doesn't quite undo the insta-locking problem. And I actually do agree with Riot that this cascading agent picks is a pretty decent solution. Now, all those problems that I mentioned before about people leaving, people throwing, people trying their best but still not being very good, those will all happen. 100% they will definitely happen when cascading agent picks comes in. It just simply will happen. But it'll only happen, I think, for the first couple weeks, maybe the first month of it happening. Because what are these people going to do after a month of it being there? Are they just going to keep quitting games? Are they going to keep throwing games and get reported constantly all the time and maybe get, their account, blocked from ranked matchmaking queue or something like that? And then remember, now when you create a new account, it has to get to level 20 before you can play ranked again. So there is a disincentive now for doing things like that. And to me, that means that people in the long term will just have to accept it. And it probably means that a couple things will end up happening, and things that I think Riot wants to happen. One of those is people learning different types of agents, understanding the game better, improving the overall player base experience, not just being a Jet one trick who knows how to dash and knows how to use the knives but has no idea what a good smoke looks like. They don't want people like that in the game. They want people who understand pretty much what the game is going on. I think if I was Riot, I'd want to improve the player base as a whole's understanding of what's going on in the entire game. And this is one way of doing it, by forcing people to play other types of agents, different kinds of agents. And secondly, and I think this one is probably very important to Riot, is they want people to talk to each other in the pre-game lobby and discuss what agents they will let each other have. For instance, let's say you are pretty comfortable with 2 agents, but you're picking 5th. There's nothing stopping you saying, hey, can you leave these 2 agents available, or one of these 2 agents available? That's what I'm used to playing. And unless you get like an absolute troll team, which will again happen like sometimes, well, again, probably very rarely, they're probably going to be like, yeah, okay, I can play this, I can play this. And I think that's what Riot wants. They want us to be talking in the pre-game lobby because that's how we create more positive environments. When you start talking in the pre-game lobby, the chances of you then communicating well in the game is much higher. And when you're communicating well in the game, even if you lose, generally it'll probably be a more positive experience than, if you don't talk aside from flaming each other, which I think is something that happens quite often right now. So for me, if I was on Riot's team, this is probably about more than just insta-locking. Insta-locking itself isn't some like major problem within the Valorant scene. I think that they realize that this probably has multiple potential benefits. And look, if it goes terribly, I'm sure they'll rein it back, because I don't think insta-locking is, number one on everyone's list of what the problem is in this game. You get a lot more complaints about deathmatch than you do insta-locking on, for instance, the Valorant subreddit. So they could always dial it back if it's not successful, but I think that Riot sees there is potential here to create a better experience for pretty much everyone who goes into a game, particularly solo queuers, that potentially, there can be more communication and more good games had overall. So whilst cascading agent picks, it probably won't be a perfect solution. It probably will be pretty problematic early on, and then still probably have some problems long term as well. I do think that Riot is looking at a bigger picture overall, and that's the thing. This post is fine, the points it makes up is fine, but it really has nothing to do, I think, with what they were looking to do with cascading agent picks. I think that this is a separate problem of not rewarding the support players enough, and something that can be tackled alongside the cascading agent picks, which I'm hoping that they are trying to make a good environment for the player base.